What's going on, everyone? Welcome to today's weather update for Saturday, April 8th, 2023. This is where we do our weather forecast for the United States, looking at the next several days going into next week. So if you're new to the channel, welcome to my channel and hit that subscribe button down below. All right, taking a look at the national picture here, you can see we have this big ball of clouds in the east, and this is associated with a system that's riding along a cold front that is stalled down in the south. If you're down in Georgia, Alabama, South Carolina, even North Carolina, you're seeing rainy conditions today. Just north of that, up in the mid-Atlantic, clouds are in effect, but the clouds will move out eventually this evening. And north of that in New England, you're actually seeing some nice weather today. In the central states, weather's not bad. We're still seeing these systems in the northwestern states that are coming on, providing some showers, even mountain snow showers. Taking a look here at radar, you can see down by where the Masters is, it's a wet day at Augusta. The rain has been plaguing the Masters all day long. I was just watching a little bit ago myself. The umbrellas are up. There's actually puddles on the green, so not good weather for the Masters tournament. The good news is tomorrow's looking to be a better day down there. Taking a look at the National Hazards map. Relatively quiet across the country, but there's a couple things that you should be aware of. If you're in the mid-Atlantic region, there could be a good hard freeze tonight and even frost. There are hard freeze warnings and frost advisories up for tonight, where temperatures will get to the upper 20s to low 30s, right at that freezing mark. There's also red flag warnings up today for portions of Nebraska, Kansas, Iowa, portions of South Dakota, and southwest Minnesota. We do have some flood watches that are up for portions of Nevada, and then there's also a flood watch that's up for parts of Montana. So that's something you want to be paying attention for. Also, down in South Carolina, there are some wind advisories up for today. Not really expecting any major wind, but it's enough that it's at advisory level. And like I said, this system should clear out tomorrow. Here's the system on radar right now. You see, it's a fairly impressive area of rain. Anywhere from 2 to 4 inches of rain expected. Locally, 5-inch amounts can't be ruled out total. When you total it all out, take a look at the Storm Prediction Center. A whole bunch of nothing today. Tomorrow, even on Monday, quiet weather expected from them. Marginal risk of excessive rainfall today down in the southeast, and that's from that ongoing system. Like I said, 2 to 4 inches of rain, isolated 5-inch amounts would not surprise me. Let's take a look at the NAM model here. 12Z NAM, we'll time this out. You can see the rain continues today. It's going to exit Georgia sometime after midnight tonight. You'll probably have some morning rain in South Carolina tomorrow morning and in parts of North Carolina. That's going to try to clear throughout the day. The clouds may linger, and the onshore flow may linger for the coastal areas. So if you're like around Cape Hatteras, down around Charleston, South Carolina, you still may have an onshore flow tomorrow. Looking beyond that, the weather's going to get nicer in the east and stay nice for a long, extended period of time. In the northwest, we continue to see these rain and mountain snow showers. There could even be some accumulating snows in the mountains, with a couple inches expected in the higher elevations. Then, as we get later into next week, all eyes turn down to the Gulf of Mexico. We've been talking about this tropical-like system that could form, and it's still showing up on the model data. But it's not going to be a major system by any means. Here's the GFS. Here's the GFS version of it, and you can see it kind of splits off the energy. Whether that happens or not remains to be seen. GFS is known for convective feedback issues, and it's showing this weak low around the area of Louisiana. And why should we pay attention to it? Well, yes, it's going to impact your weather, and second of all, could be the first named system of the year. We'll have to wait and see if that actually happens. Taking a look further on the GFS, you can see here would be the next potential severe weather maker. We're going all the way into next week, and yes, pretty far out. And we have this area of low pressure that sets up. And let me switch this to frozen map. We have this area of low pressure that sets up in the plains, and it actually does provide a sizable amount of mountain snow yet again, and maybe even heavy snow into the western Dakotas. And then as we get into next Sunday, you get the south flow that sets up under it, and that's where you get potential for maybe some severe weather. But this is so far out that I'm not even impressed on it yet. we'll take a look and revisit that threat as we get later into the week. Reversing this a little bit, you can see dry weather continues in the east. The remnants of that low would come up. It's not going to have a lot of moisture. Could it redevelop off the Atlantic coast into something? It could redevelop into a weak low, but again, we're not expecting anything terribly impressive. Then we watch this system as it comes to the east, and let's take a look at the Canadian for the same storm system. And you can see here's the Canadian. You get your mountain rain and snow showers in the northwest. Then as we head into next week, the Canadian does show the weak system in the Gulf, but it has it much more east. Remember, the GFS had it over Louisiana. The Canadian puts it over Florida Panhandle, and you get showers and thunderstorms, maybe 1 to 2 inches of rain, and it tries to come up as some weak showers, eventually makes it into the mid-Atlantic region, and look what happens here. It does develop a weak area of low pressure off the Atlantic coast, so by the time you get into the really extended long range, this is beyond next weekend. I mean, the Canadian is much slower with the storm system. Let's reverse this again. Here's the timing. The Canadian doesn't have it developing until end of next week. Meanwhile, the GFS, which you saw, has it developing much earlier, say around Wednesday. So there's some discrepancies in the model with this. And quite frankly, it's still a question. Will this actually develop at all? Well, to help us with that, here's the GEFS. GEFS is still fairly consistent that around Wednesday into Thursday, there will be a weak area of low pressure that develops in the Gulf. And some of these members do get it down to the low 1000s, almost to the 990s. If that should happen, you would have a named subtropical storm system. The other thing that we can point out on the GFS is it does show that storm system in the northern plains, so that's something we'll have to watch. And at this point, we'll have to watch it more for the wind, the rain, and maybe even the snow aspect on the northwest side of the system. But somewhere to the south of that, like I said, there probably will be somewhat of a severe weather threat, but it's just way too early to figure out where that's going to be. I showed you the Canadian. Let's go back to the Canadian. The Canadian also has that system, but it's more disorganized with it. And look how much further south it is. It has the precipitation going up over Oklahoma, Texas. So we need a few more days to figure out just what that's going to do. All right, taking a look at the drought monitor here. Unfortunately, we showed you this yesterday. There's not much relief coming to the east and northeast. I think we're going to see these drought areas expand into New England because I'm not expecting a lot of rainfall in that area. Here's the 1 to 7 day outlook, and look in the northeast. Relatively dry. This rain that you see here is relatively from what's left of the system that's down south right now. And then you also have this in the Gulf of Mexico, where that's from the flow and that potential storm system. Eastern half of Florida, you do get a fair amount of rain, and that's well needed. Because we go back to the drought map, you are in a moderate drought right now. Even down here in southwest Florida, it's approaching severe drought now, so you could use that rain, but unfortunately, the rainfall, the heaviest of it's going to be on the eastern side. All right, taking a look at 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. Well above average temperatures in the northeast, 70s to near 80s multiple days next week. The west coast, below average. 8 to 14 day average, still above average for much of the country. Even the west coast, you start to become above average. And still above average in the east, though probably closer to, say, mid-70s at that point versus temperatures at or above 80. Slightly below average in Texas. A lot of that's going to be dependent on what this central system does. If it sets up more south, yes, you would see cooler weather. Taking a look here at the precipitation, 6 to 10 days. Below average in the west. Slightly below average, we'll say. They're going strong below average. With these showery events going on in the northwest, I think this is a little bit overdone. The central region, a lot of this depends on what that system's going to do. That sets up over the plains. We'll have to watch that. The southeast is above average and stays above average, and I do agree with that because, as you saw, it's going to be some wet conditions, at least in the eastern half of Florida. Below average in the northeast. And 8 to 14 day outlook from the west all the way to the east. Below average with exceptions to the south. Texas slightly above average. Florida slightly above average. So that's good news for you guys, but bad news for the northeast. I'm concerned that as we head into May, a month from now, I think we're going to start really seeing the drought conditions expand in the Northeast. And it wouldn't surprise me if the first half of summer is relatively dry unless we see a weather pattern evolve in May. All right, that does it for today's weather update, guys. Generally a quiet pattern, nothing too significant going on. As we head to the second half of the week, all eyes will turn to this storm system that's going to set up in the plains. Until we do our next weather update, which will be tomorrow on Easter Sunday, have a great day. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content like this, subscribe to my channel down below. See you all again next time, and thanks for watching.